okay? This is episode 8 of Incoming Aggression. And if this was, you know, like an episode of an American sitcom, you think of those really cheesy American sitcoms like Friends, or I'm not even sure which other ones have this. Maybe does like Two and a Half Men have it? You know, the ones where it'll always have like a title screen that's all black and it'll have some sort of title to the episode, you know? This would be called The One Where All the Chickens Came Home to Roost, because on this particular episode, as we discussed the LPL playoffs, which the first round is clean completed now, the quarterfinals, it's a single elimination best of 5 tournament. A lot of sacred cows lie dead in the street, blood strewn from their bodies. Meanwhile, in the background, a singer, a minstrel, sings glorious songs of a returning hero called Thorin, who predicted many of these things, thought certain things which he was told he was wrong about by the experts of the day, the leading intellectual minds of the time. And so I feel like a lot of this will be, you know, someone reasonably smug and objectionable gloating while pretending in a Socratic method to ask questions as to why the other person was so wrong. Now, I don't know why I've opened it like that, because, you know, we're just going to talk about LPL now, so it's your expertise there. That's the area that you, in some ways, have, like, devoted your life to, and every waking minute and thinking about stuff, and so, you know, I don't mean to put you in sort of a Morgana binding on this and really nail you down, and but let's start out, shall we? Let's just start now. To make this as uncomfortable as possible, I normally would have said let's start in chronological order of the matches, but I feel like we have to just start with what happened today between OMG and LGD. Because here's the thing, Froskurinn. If we're being absolutely real, every episode that was about OMG before was always along the lines of, like, they must just be dicking around, like, you know, this can't be the real OMG because, you know, they don't even have the proper line. The truth, they didn't have the proper lineup in sometimes, and they changed players, and like they took out the Stark at bot lane, they took out the Star AD carry, and then they did different things, and they would always split the series with everyone. So the whole premise that everyone, to a degree, had to live by was like, this must be just fucking around and sandbagging and not caring what seed you are. Without going too far the other way, like now because they got 3-0'd, or that was, you know, they had no upside ever. What do you think, reflecting back now on how the season played out before, in light of what you know now? How does that change it or modify it, or what do you think?
Well, a lot of the basis of people giving OMG the benefit of doubt that they weren't just being moronic and kind of wasting everyone's time and making these huge errors was, I think it started with their Snake game, actually, when they split 1-1 with Snake at the very beginning of the series, not the second time that they faced them. And they had that massive second game where Snake beat them the first time, and then OMG like turned another corner and just smashed them.
This is the one where Uzi was crying, yeah?
Yeah. No, this is, that was later on in the series.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, yeah, the first one you mean, right?
Yeah, the very first one. It was just kind of this whole other level of OMG that we really hadn't seen from either team. Like, this was even before EDG really started ramping up, because in the very beginning, EDG were still kind of struggling to identify themselves as a team. And it was kind of on the back of this that OMG found, like, their hype, and we're like, okay, there was the glimmer of that all-star roster that we thought. And then it never found that second gear again, and obviously the other teams surrounding them started to merge with their rosters. More cohesion came across the board, so the level of competition is increasing, and OMG just continued to struggle. And we kept hearing these responses, you know, we're playing things that we're bad at, we're experimenting. Like the support staff from OMG and the organization itself were putting out all these messages of, you know, like, don't worry, we understand that it looks bad, or at least identifying that the fans were upset, because a lot of people were pointing fingers, particularly at going, but it was always just this response of, we're trying new things out, we're experimenting, we're playing things that we're bad at. And it kind of was indicative of OMG. Like, typically they do have a history of sandbagging, but to sandbag to this extent, and then it comes out against the game at LGD that they still had exactly the same problems. It wasn't like they changed anything of their performance as far as the regular season. In fact, I would say that game against LGD was even worse than the regular season. The entire series, OMG got one dragon. Just one dragon. Like, how awful of objective control is that? And they've suffered with their vision control and their objective control pretty much the entire season, but this was just atrocious.
So the obvious question then is, how does that happen? Because if you remember the original storyline, which was this is the biggest blockbuster trade in the history of League of Legends. Like, a superstar player has gone to a team that has all the other superstars. It was even famous for being sort of like the superstar team, in as much as they had like 3 superstars, you know. And not only that, here's the part that's the kicker. When he went to the team, people at least thought like, oh, but they'll probably still try the Dada 7 guy, or they'll get someone new. In the end, they had an even better superstar lineup than the original one looked like. They had every position was a superstar position. So how does the superstar team with every single role super strong, how does that team totally fail?
I mean, it's going to sound really dumb as an answer and very corny, but the answer is like teamwork and synergy, the power of friendship. Historically, OMG have had massive problems running Cloud. There was a reason why they took Dada 7 through the group stage at Worlds and why they kind of subbed him out after a few games, and it was because there's supposedly conflict between Cloud's shot calling and Loveling, the jungler shot calling, and some personality issues there. We always talked about, I know that you theorized right before or right after the collection of Uzi was made to the team, that there was going to be an issue of gold revenue. People were wondering, okay, if you take the gold away from Going and Cool and give it to Uzi, I mean, how can you support these 3 massive pieces on a team? And it just never really worked out. We saw that, I think OMG's best performances of the season were with San and Xiang as their bot lane. And people are gonna get mad because they assume that I'm just like super biased and like an Uzi hater, but to be frank, like Uzi he hasn't impressed me at all. And this is kind of the curse of him. When he goes to Worlds and he's in front of the international stage, and most of the Western fans who will watch this show see Uzi, they're like, okay, yeah, this guy's amazing. He's the best AD carry in the world. He's so great. But during the regular season, he never performs to that level, which is why his Worlds performance is just kind of so unexpected. I mean, now he's set a trend for it both years in a row. But if he doesn't get there, he's not able to take off. And his season performance has been pretty much on point. It's just kind of this lackluster, not able to fit in, not able to carry the team, even when given the resources.
Well, the reason why I say that theory, because that's one of the reasons to tie it into another sort of fan argument that I don't like. There's two fan arguments that come in here that I think are both bullshit, but which are actually held generally as consensus, okay? Which is one, the first one, if you're talking about Uzi, would be, okay, well, in this team that is a legit triple threat team, you could, like, if we took these 3 players out, Going, Uzi, and Cool, and put them on different teams, we would start building the team around those players, and we would make them primary carries, depending on the team, maybe even the best player. Even in the case of Going, where, okay, top lane previously didn't always carry, you know. If we took all these players on their own, yes, they would be superstars. So then when you put them together, anyone who isn't naive is going to be like, right, well, someone's going to have to, I use the term like be more of a hybrid, okay? It's not you have to be purely supportive, but you're going to have it where, yeah, maybe half the time you do actually. And you're going to have to only pick your spots to try and carry the game and try and have like split push or get all the off-lane farm or whatever it is you're going to do. You're just going to wait until it's favorable for you, whereas the others are going to get the priority, if that's the way you'd use the term, you know. But in doing that, here's the problem, is when you do that, what people don't realize is there's a natural chauvinism in esports, which is that people assume that very, very skilled players who are carries, because that's the hardest thing to do, which is accurate. That is the hardest thing to do, skill-wise, is to be their role, okay, to carry the whole game, to get all the kills, to have all the resources and use them. There's a natural chauvinism to think that means that since that's the hardest thing, you can also do everything that's supposedly easier. So it's the same logic as thinking an AD carry could always be a support player. Yeah, to a degree it's easier, but it's different skill set, you know. So what happens is, it's true, a lot of these star players could be the hybrid type carry, you know, where most of the time they're playing more supportive, but sometimes they carry. The problem is, odds are they won't be as good at it as they were at the original position of being the carry. So here's what usually happens from my experience, is when all-star teams get made in any team game, initially, the reason why it works like decently to start with, it tends not to be terrible from day one, is because initially, whoever the guy is who's sort of sacrificing more of his role than he's used to, initially he can sort of just think to himself like, okay, well, like, I'll sacrifice because I need to, because it's worth it for the team, you know, and like everything's going to work out. But then when the team isn't as godlike as on paper you feel like they should be, because everyone can't be the superstar carry, so one player is going to naturally be worse than he should be on paper, you know, usually it means they're not the best team either. And what happens is, once results start to go badly, now it's the most frustrating part is the guy who has to play that role now. Because not only is his team not winning all the time, but he doesn't even get to feel like he could contribute the same way he wants to, you know. And now there's questions about like, oh, should someone else have to do that? You know, that's where the main problem always comes in. And so I've almost never in history seen a situation where that player started out as a star, then was forced into the more supportive role and just like flourished and was as good or better, you know. That's why most of the scenarios where people would say that previously, where there was teams that everyone's like, okay, the obvious teams where people would have claimed they were triple threat was like, people would have said that SK Telecom when they won, or Impact could carry if he wanted to, but you know, but he doesn't need to. Or Looper, there's another obvious one, you know. Oh, he could carry the game, sometimes he does, but usually, I think, I've always put it forwards that those aren't carry players, and that's an unfair way to model the team, essentially, because I think it's the other way around. I think actually by nature they're better as supportive players, and then it's the other way around. Like, they just get a little bit of carry potential, but they know that they don't have to do it all the time, and if they did, it would be worse for them. So what's interesting is it goes both ways, as in the players that should be more supportive, as we've now seen, when you force them to be a carry all the time, so like Looper, like Impact, it doesn't always work out. It works sometimes, not as much, whereas the guy who was the main carry who's forced into that supportive role, it also doesn't really work out that much for them, you know. It's more like, I think actually these players are naturally, you have to a degree, to be at your best, you have to be naturally suited for whatever role you play, I think. What do you think?
To kind of build off your theory, and I see what you're saying, I think the person or the player that fit into the description that you're creating as far as the OMG context is actually Cool. He did kind of take on that, it wasn't like supportive as far as champion pool. I'm trying to think about the best way to describe this. Everyone wants to talk about gold as a resource. So this was the issue, like who's going to get the gold, who's going to be the true carry on this triple threat OMG team. But the actual resource was the jungler, Loveling. And Loveling historically in how OMG set up is he bounces between top and mid. And like the thing about Cool and Loveling is that they've always played together. We've never really seen them separated. At least we've never seen Cool play without Loveling. He took this role in team fights where Cool would be the initiator. Like, he would still have these carry champions. So I don't want people to look at it like carry, or he wasn't the carrier, he was a more supportive hybrid style, like pointed his champion pool, like, you know, what about this assassin game and this assassin game? Because obviously he played like Syndra, LeBlanc, things like that. But Cool was always the initiator. Even when Going would play like crazy initiation tanks like Hecarim and things like that, it was kind of Cool would go in, get everyone's cooldowns, and then it would be Uzi and Going collapsing down and trying to clean up, kind of when their team fighting was working initially at kind of the beginning of the season. Of course, it started to fall apart and get scattered, but as a resource, Loveling was pulled away from Cool and pulled away from Going and put more down into Uzi. And because of that, we saw both Cool kind of stunt in his growth, stopped being that amazing mid laner that we thought him to be. He wasn't like this crazy hyper carry that he had this reputation of. And likewise, Going really suffered from it because he would constantly get gank top and then transition that lead across the map with like teleports and roams and things like that. And by pulling the jungler towards the bottom and feeding all these resources into Uzi, it really hurt the two solo laners from OMG.
That's also one of the areas where the reason why I said that I hate those fan theories of like the player who's like obviously the supportive one, or he could carry all the time if he wanted to, and vice versa, where they essentially try to. The problem is, because this logic that the carry player could just become more supportive if he wanted, it's almost set out as though like the team would be better and he could be better if he did so. So obviously, from my own experiences, I've heard this leveled at flame all the time. People would say, oh, he should play more supportively, like he should let someone else in the team carry. But my question always was like, well, who would be the carry if he did that? And then how would that help his style? You know, he'd probably be worse if he did that. Well, we see now, okay? Remember all the hype around Going from Worlds about how he was the best top laner now in the world because obviously he'd beaten Save, etc. He's the best. Well, some idiots still said Lupa was the best in the world, but if we're being reasonable, among the carries, he performed the best of the top laners, okay? Mm-hmm. So someone would have said he's the best top laner in the world and he plays the right style for this meta and all the rest of it. Well, apparently his jungler was going top all the time. Remember all the fucking criticisms that go to the top laners? Save, Flame, it's like, oh, they take up the jungler attention all the time. Yeah, that's what happens if you're the carry, you get the resources. So how do you look at Going in this series here? When he was against Acorn first two games, Flame the third game. How was his performance overall?
Going's performance was not the Going of the Worlds. He wasn't the big carry. He's been...
Yeah. Listen, Froskurinn, to me, it was crystal clear that unless someone holds Going's dick, then he can't get anything done.
That's not fair to him. Okay. The thing about Going,
that was actually a pun on shit that you've said, by the way.
I got that one.
Okay.
Going is a good player. Even when the resources were taken away from him, I think he's faring better than Cool is faring, at least as, being a useful member of his team. It's not like amazing, fantastic, and I'll even give you this one, Thorn. When he matched up 1v1 against Flame, Flame never killed him in lane, but Flame did force the teleport, bullied him out of the lane, and then waited for going to use his teleport top, and then knowing that he had the TP advantage, immediately went bottom and picked up 2 kills. So I will say that Flame played that lane far superior than going.
And literally only died when they did like a 5-man gank top. Yeah. I saw it. I saw the game door, yeah.
But
playing Gnar against Hecarim. You know, in the West, Froskurinn, no one plays Gnar. You know, in the West, Hecarim's the most OP shit ever. But yeah, you know, just give him the champion, see how the boys do, you know.
Sir, they don't play Gnar in the Western world because they have no idea how to team fight with him and manage the page.
Listen, I don't want you to worry, okay? But like I said, Hecarim's OP as shit right now. Meanwhile, Gnar is probably, Flame's like 9th best champion or something. But yeah, you know, keep the dream going. Keep your dreams alive, lad.
I just think it's
And remember, you know when Loveling used to get all that jungler help top? Flame doesn't have a jungler. He was playing 1v1 the whole time, you know.
Sir? Okay.
So what happened is we got Thorin's dream, okay? 1v1, no jungler intervention, which can normally never happen. That's why it's a hypothetical discussion when you say that. It happened. It happened for Froskurinn, and we see the results. Delicious. Player who hadn't even played half the season. She comes in. Oh, are you a legend? Are you the god around here? There are no gods except me. Now bow to the master. Yeah, okay.
I just think it's wrong to, because obviously with this conversation, people are going to be like, so going was a problem. And I think that's the false thing to say.
No, but he was a problem.
Everyone was a problem on that team, but he was at the core. I think out of all of OMG's, going probably did the best. Like, out of their entire lineup through the course of the series, he was, like, the least factor problem because he still was able to get some teleports down, try to do his job, look for those initiations, look for flanks, things like that. Cool was a non-factor, never left the mid lane. Uzi was a non-factor. They put all of their resources into him. He was never able to connect on anything and be that big, hyper, amazing AD carry that we see at Worlds. The person that, and we were talking about this before the show, the person that I blamed the most was Loveling. And obviously OMG's draft phase was very suspect. I mean,
why would you blame Loveling though?
Because he's the jungler. He got out jungled by Chwin. Just let that sink in. Possibly the worst jungler in LPL, Chwin, LGD's jungler, out jungled Loveling.
What's amazing about this series when I watched it is you would think with all these superstar names, like, I mean, let's be real here. There was like 9 superstars in the server at all points in all these games, okay? 9 names that all could be like considered some of the best in LPL. So you would think that when we're going to discuss the results, it must be like, and then this guy had this amazing play against this guy, and there was this amazing laner here. And actually, when you think back of memorable plays, there weren't that many of anyone owning except Imp. What essentially happened was almost everyone else on both teams was like neutralized. Just the players on LGD did slightly better at their roles or had like 1 or 2 extra plays, and then the team just was set up so that Imp then just carried all the fights, you know, and that's how it just ended up feeling, you know.
LGD did this really cool thing, and they actually won with Kalista too, which historically, I don't want to use the word, through the season, Imp and LGD had struggled with this pick. There was kind of that slumping period in the middle of the season where LGD kept picking Kalista and just didn't understand how to team fight or siege with it. And now Imp looked fantastic on the champion. And PYL and Imp have always looked good in the 2v2 bottom when they had things like Kalista, Leona. Obviously this time it was Kalista and Kennen, things like that. But they controlled PYL, and he still roamed a little bit on his Nautilus game, but he stayed much more into the bottom lane. And the actual roaming was done by Chwin and Acorn. Acorn did a lot of roaming around and like getting this deep vision. And even Wayless, like who normally is the start of vision for LGD, where he'll go back early and buy wards and kind of protect his jungler, because he was playing things like Cassidy, he was much more confined to his lane. So it was interesting to see the dynamic change of LGD running PYL as their roamer, and instead keeping him down into the lane, keeping his power near Imp so he's able to abuse the 2v2 Kalista, obviously that passive, and Chwin and Acorn stepping up and being that vision control of LG and the wave control.
Because that's another factor, okay? Like you were talking about Cool there, and now obviously you have to weigh him against Wayless's performance. Mm-hmm. In Wayless in general got the better like every game, but I mean it's not like he's super hard carried against, but he was always a bit better. And actually it felt like over the last few weeks Wayless had sort of ramped up his level a bit, like game on game. Admittedly he was playing bad teams sometimes, but he was usually carrying them, having crazy games.
You know that I always have thought really highly of Wayless. The last time that they faced, Cool did dumpster Wayless when they switched the matchup. It was like Zed versus Ari, and the first time Wayless got it and he won. The second time Cool got it, and just Cool was obviously very pissed off and just put Wayless into the ground. But obviously, if Wayless isn't having to spend his early gold on vision, like wards to secure his weaker jungler Twin and make sure that that guy's safe, and he's able to just sit in his lane, farm up, and do what Wayless does, which he always gets a farm lead, things like that. I mean, he can stand toe-to-toe with possibly... I mean, Cool was hyped to be the best mid laner in China, at least one of the top mid laners in China. Wayless looked fantastic, but again, I still think the primary reason that LGD won, they understood what their problems were over the season and they corrected them, and OMG didn't. And that's like really the difference between this series. LGD, they kept sending PYL out of Imp's lane. They took power away from Imp. Imp's this obviously godlike carry. He proved it in this series. He looked fantastic all through the season, but he really went off on his Callisto performance this time around, and they decided not to take PYL away from him, to just give it to him.
What did he think about Cool's picks in the series? Because you're mentioning there, like, if you think of Cool at his best, assassins, like players where he can have a huge impact. So why is he, yeah, why? I mean, listen, Azir, you can do good damage on that if you get the right fights, but why is he picking Lulu, do you think? What do you think of that pick?
I don't know if it's the players that are doing the draft phase. I would assume that it would be the coaching and support staff, and they need to be fired on OMG. That was some of the worst draft phasing that I've ever seen. Picking Rengar first game in 5.6, 5.7, whichever patch they're on live right now, is atrocious. And Loveland got his shit kicked in because of it. And then they did, he had Lulu, Azir, and I'm totally spacing his third champion. Cool's Azir is awful. He's never been able to play that champion well. Lulu, again, we talked about how Cool has taken the form of being that hybrid middleman type of person. And then Uzi playing he played 2 Tristana games, and then he finally went for the Jinx. Like, what is going on? Lucian is a viable option right now in the meta, and that's his big champion. That's the champion that he has a ridiculous win rate on, and they just won't touch it. I think the only position that they got good picks in was the top lane.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? So, when you say about the jungler, that's something you've always gone in on LGD about how Xuen is shit. He's like one of the worst junglers in all of LPL. Because, by the way, as context, unfortunately, some of the best junglers, actually, some of them are even in some of the worst teams. Like the 8th place team, WE, has probably the best jungler at the moment, for context. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those weird things that we've talked about before, where even a top team, even though talent exists within the region, has a weak player at that position. So it's not like Xuen did any superstar plays in this series, but what was different from his regular season performance to now?
He definitely changed up his champion pool, and I was actually really concerned about Xuen. I thought that the meta shift would really hurt him because Vi nerfs came through. I mean, that said, Nunu isn't impossibly hard to play. Actually a very safe jungler, but he played Nunu Sejuani. Sejuani I was a little bit curious about just because you need to protect her early, but he did a good job. It was probably the best performance of Xuen as far as the series is concerned. Like I said, they moved the vision control away from PYL's roam and Wayless's initial back, and they gave it to Xuen and Acorn. So whereas normally it's like Wayless and PYL leading LGD and kind of setting up and creating these plays through vision and roams and map pressure and things like that. Of course, Acorn's always a factor there with wave control. It moved more into the power of Xuen. And he was just able to abuse and bully Loveling pretty much every single game of the series.
Oh, the third champion for Cool was Cassiopeia.
Oh, okay. That's more so his style, but still, it takes ramp time and it takes resources. And if your resources are going into your bottom lane 80 carry Tristana.
So let's talk about the bottom lane then. Even though you have hyped PYL, like, you know, maybe he's the best support in China, he's one of the best, you know, all that stuff. That's the problem, is that if this had been the OMG that had Dada 7, then you could at least have said that, like, oh, we can't really judge Uzi and Imp because, Uzi's got a much weaker support player and this is unfair, whereas actually, even if people don't know it in the West, Imp's got a really good support player, and so, it's another scenario like Worlds, where how can you judge the two players against each other because one is a great bot lane and one is a great player playing in a great bot lane that's only great because of him, essentially. But I'm not sure that excuse is going to work anymore because he had Cloud, who's this guy who's highly touted, who's a playmaker, who He's good on these strong champions at support position. How did the actual bot lanes match up 2v2? I mean, they didn't really play it. They did lane swaps, etc. But even so,
and I was just about to point
impact
that out.
on the game.
They lane swapped twice. I believe LGD played the lane swap better both times. Acorn got like a 20 CS lead on going the first time around. And it was weird too because they lane swapped it and Uzi decided to freeze the lane instead of doing a fast push. And OMG started on enemy jungle side and typically it was just weird. They started on their side and they set up for a dive. Like typically if you start on your own side of the jungle and you do the lane swap, it's this idea that you're going to send 4 people up. So you're going to start your jungle, move over into the enemy team jungle, and then come up behind the tower and either dive that guy or take the tower for free. But because Uzi and OMG decided as a team to freeze the wave, they went up there and they just didn't get anything for it. So it was just very ill. What's the word I'm looking for? Ill executed poorly. I don't know. That was bizarre. They just fucked that up. As far as the 2v2 and PYL and Imp played the lane swap better both times, but as far as the 2v2, like the true face-off, PYL and Imp put Uzi and Cloud into the ground. I think finally when they did match up in the 2v2, it was Jinx Thresh versus Nautilus Callista, I think.
That sounds right, yeah.
And like Thresh is Cloud's signature champion. Like that's the champion that he's really well known for. Just got dumpstered. I mean, of course, Jinx is weak in the lane phase, but it was very clear that Uzi and Cloud didn't respect Callista's early power spike when she gets that level 2, level 3, and the ability for the Ren damage to just walk someone down, and Imp just knew exactly what he was doing. Popped Uzi like balloons. I mean, it traded the kill across to Cloud, but obviously if your kill's going to the AD carry versus the support, that's like a better matchup. But in the straight 2v2, Imp and PYL just outplayed them.
There was even the problem that they had over the whole series, where the whole dynamic of all the team fights was either LGD chasing OMG down and just getting all these kills and going in a frenzy, or what would happen is OMG would think they'd gotten a pick, like a Threshold Clans or something, and then that would just essentially force the fight in which LGD chased them all down and killed them. It's like actually there wasn't. I can't even see really what, aside from playing better, I can't even see to some degree in some of the fights what OMG did wrong. You know, they even got some of the initiations they wanted. Like, oh well, this is the fight we want. Like, remember the fight where they actually just popped Godv Wayless like almost instantly, and still got totally destroyed in the fight because Imp just kited around everyone and killed everyone. So that's the best case scenario. You killed, like, I think it was Orianna he was on or something. You killed him like instantly, and yet you still have no chance in the fight. And that was the AP damage right there.
No, and I don't know. It was unfortunate to watch and very disheartening. I think that I did want to point out.
Was that different to the team fighting of OMG earlier this season? How would you characterize the difference?
It's been different for them for the entire season. OMG's team fighting, like that was the one thing that they were really well known for, is their team fight and their ability to collapse. It's always been OMG's communication and their ability to simultaneously collapse down onto a team, which is very risky and very hard to pull off, because if you don't do it perfectly, obviously the enemy team that you're collapsing on can just turn to one of your outlier members and immediately delete them from the map, and then you're at a 4v5 disadvantage before the fight even starts. But OMG just have not found that same synergy. And the thing that I wanted to talk about, just kind of quickly throw it back, is again, their draft phase, their pick. So yeah, we had Uzi, he played Jinx Tristana, which normally he's more of like a Lucian player, so that's kind of weird there. And Jinx, she's trending in the meta. I don't really have any major problems with that pick. We talked about how Thresh is Cloud's like big champion, but LGD are playing, Callista Kennen, Callista Nautilus. Like, they're playing the new wave of meta champions in that bot lane. And it just feels like OMG, like, they haven't caught up with the times. They haven't figured out what the powerhouse picks are. Yeah, they got the Hecarim, but they're playing, Maokai jungle. Azir's okay. Cassiopeia mid. I mean, that was just weird. It was weird to see LGD just so far ahead in their matured style and just their matured mechanics. Just dumpster.
Why is there such a focus? It's been here the whole season on Azir in LPL. Like, not focus like everyone's doing it, but first of all, recently people have been doing it. We've seen a lot in like the promotion tournament and now. But also through the season, like, Dade kept spamming it every now and then. We almost never see it in the West. So why? It's just not a primary mid lane pick, for example. So why is China, do you think, focused in it? Why did they like the champion?
Well, itemization certainly hurt Azir when Athene's got nerfed really hard, and so that's kind of why we saw the disappearance of him, especially as different picks rose up in the mid lane. China, you have to remember that their patch made this crazy jump where They were on a really old patch, and then they kept playing, and then suddenly they like skipped 2 patches and jumped back up. And Azir came back into meta when Athene's again got its big buff, so that brought power back to him. But also Luden's Echo, because it's really good for like rotation-based champions that are quickly able to go through their spells and get extra poke damage on them. And I don't think Azir is an awful pick. It's definitely very, especially as Gragas rises up, because he's more of a melee, although he has a great displacement and nice reach on him. If you're against a team that's all like melee damage, very short range, like a Severe, especially like a Severe Cho'Gath, maybe Gragas, things like that, Azir actually works really well just because he can stay so far away from you and work really well to push ultimates like that.
I mean, actually, wasn't Azir the game where it was against Kassadin? I think so. I think that was the game he played against Kassadin. I'll double check.
Well, Kassadin's like the counter to Azir, because the issue is that he can just jump right on his face. And I think it was the last game. It was Azir.
Yeah, it was the last
Kassadin.
game.
But God v. Wayless got to last pick the Kassadin counter.
How do you feel now about Imp versus Uzi?
I think Imp's the better player. But I've always thought, like, the thing is I've never been high on Uzi.
Do you know the spoiler for Froskurinn?
What?
He always was. I know people don't like that, but I'm not saying this to like brag, but when I did my top 20 players at Season 4 Worlds, one of the areas where people really took issue with me was that I had Imp as the second best AD carry going into the tournament. Because I had Name number 1, because he was just like the superlative carry, you know, everything you want in an AD carry. Then I had Imp number 2. I had Imp above Deft, and I had Imp above Uzi. And people would be like, well, how could you do that? It's like, because as far as I can tell, what people did was watch Imp play and go, wow, this guy's amazing. Therefore, that's all his support making him do that. It's like, well, wait a minute, what? No, he's amazing. You can't say that it's like his fault that he plays with Mata. What he's doing is still the best you could possibly want from him, you know. So we've seen now, you take Mata away, still a fucking phenomenal player. Maybe his bot lane's not as strong, that's true. They were the best bot lane probably ever, but he's still a fantastic player himself.
People have thought that Uzi is amazing, and to be fair to Uzi, he is a very good player. I'm not saying like just because Imp's better than him suddenly makes Uzi, trash. He's still very good, very mechanically proficient. His CSing is amazing. His issue has always been his team fight ability and his positioning. And yeah, he has this god tier 1, or I guess I should say 2 tournament performance at Worlds, but it's never been like that consistently. Whereas Imp has consistently performed for LGD, even when they were struggling with their Callista Graves kind of mid-season. I mean, think about all the times Imp played Graves this season where he was like 17-1.
I mean, we have to admit, obviously, even at Worlds, Uzi probably was the better of the two at that tournament. But first of all, Imp still had a phenomenal tournament. He was fantastic in nearly all the games. And head-to-head with Uzi, he still did pretty well. It's just you always felt like, oh, this is an unfair matchup, because, I mean, look at one guy's team and look at the other guy's team, and it's inevitable who's going to win here, regardless who wins this matchup. But it feels like this season, Imp and Uzi they've just tried to be them. They've just been themselves to a degree, okay? They've been those where they want to get the carry champion, they want to carry the whole game, and essentially, if someone's a huge fan of Uzi, Imp just out Uzi'd Uzi. He was just better than him at the same things.
Yes, but I will say this. I think Uzi is better in Starhorn Royal Club than he's ever been in OMG.
Well, that's convenient, isn't it?
No, just to be frank, OMG they don't work as a team, and it's pretty fucking obvious that they don't work as a team. Like,
well, that's also because
if we took this form of OMG against last year's form of Starhorn Royal Club, so Uzi has now been cloned, and you made them go head to head, Starhorn Royal Club would win.
I've got a great example for you here, right, of where if a pro player says something, people think, right, well, that's a pro player and he's really good, therefore he must be correct. So I once did an interview with Edward from, Gambit Gaming. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, the interview was after Season 3 Worlds, and so we'd all just seen that great Uzi performance, the first breakout big performance for him, and he'd obviously had those crazy games with Royal, where he'd beaten OMG and he'd beaten Fnatic, and so I made the point to him then, okay, right, well, when you look at those team fights, if you remember, people actually did some video breakdowns where they showed that in these team fights, you could pause it, and at any moment in time, during a fight that was about to start, it would literally, Starhorn Royal Club team would organize themselves so that it was like a 4-man wall in front of Uzi at all times. And then whatever happened in the fight, like as the fight started, you could then pause it 5 seconds later and they'd have reorganized so that again this sort of wall was maintained. And that even if someone tried to get in on Uzi, someone was peeling off for them and someone was getting in the way of him and someone was using their abilities on him and someone was drawing attention. It was actually like one of the best examples of like a protect the AD carry setup you've ever seen. And so what I asked Edward was like, when you see this, you can tell that this team's whole strategy is to do that. Like they consciously know this is what our aim is to keep this guy alive, keep him in the back line, keep him within range to do auto attacks but not getting attacked. What you ideally want of the carry AD carry. And so I said to Edward, like, you know, like, do you think Western teams just don't like understand this like strategy of how to do it, or do they not practice that style? And Edward naively said, like, oh, I don't think they do that actually. I don't think anyone practices like that. I think that just happened in the fight, okay? Because in his teams, they wouldn't consciously think that way, okay? Maybe Western teams in general wouldn't allow themselves this mentality of like, well, no, this is the star player and he has to carry. They all want to believe that that everyone's special and some unique snowflake who gets to have his role. But you can tell in all the Starhorn Royal Club lineups, it was always understood, except for that one period where he like fucking did the Lucian jungle pick. Aside from that one time, it was understood that this is our guy, this is the way it has to be. And so they gave him, I'm not exaggerating, the most resources of any player in the history of League of Legends, as far as I can tell. Like, I can't think of another superstar who got all 4 positions doing everything with him in mind, you know. So how's anyone ever going to look as good if there is an AD carry who actually is the star when they're in a team where it's anything less than that, you know?
I feel like this is our theme and our motif of this episode of like the superstar team or the myth of the superstar team and how proper teams are actually managed, and you have to have someone be the shit stick.
It's also a lot
members.
The thing is, it's a lot easier. Here's what's counterintuitive about it. The reason why it works a lot better when you have players who aren't actually as good is because the fact they're not as good means they don't have the option to be the superstar and carry. Therefore, they've spent their whole lives training whatever they're capable of doing. So if that fits in with what you need, like you need, for example, if you're in a team with UDI, you probably don't want a carry top laner. You want someone whose job is just pick meta champions that are good now. Ideally, if they zone, that's great. That's exactly what we want. So instead, we've got a player where, at his best, he's carrying the game. He's coming in, and the player we've got as the top lane for Uzi now has spent his whole career on the other foot, where he's like, my AD carry is the supportive guy who doesn't ever try to be the super carry, except for the odd game where like he just does what an AD carry is supposed to do and right clicks the champions. Aside from those ones, I'm the main carry, and he's playing supportive for me in that sense, you know. Well, now we've actually got 2 opposite styles and put them together there.
Yep.
So someone's going to suffer, and in the end, actually, unfortunately, both players suffered.
Everyone suffered. OMG fans suffered the most. This is like the most disappointing performance they've had in their careers.
How does this performance of Uzi just in this series measure up with like Uzi in domestic competitions in the past in China? Like, was this one of his worst? Was it okay? Whereabouts would you rank it?
Playoffs last year when he was on Starhorn Royal Club, he actually did really well. It's when Starhorn Royal Club really started to ramp up. So I would say this is probably one of the most disappointing performances of Uzi. I don't think it's been his bottom one, because I just remember blatant games where he would just flash in and just immediately died. So it wasn't like he was making huge mechanical missteps like that. But it was very lackluster because they were giving him the resources or attempting to, and he just didn't do anything with them. And we've seen this throughout the season. Like you said, like that game where Uzi cried because he was like 8-1 on Kalista, and he just couldn't carry the game.
You know, when people do this, even experts do this, okay? Because it's when a player who's very, very good struggles or isn't doing as well as he can do, to make things to make things so that they're not confusing, because that's a confusing scenario. Like, why is this player not playing to his potential? What's going wrong in the team? What people will often say, even experts, is like, oh, he just doesn't care right now. Like, he doesn't get motivated for this part of the season, or he always gets it together at the end of the season and picks it up and all that sort. And that can be true to a degree. Maybe the motivation level isn't there as much. But here's an unfortunate truth from my experience in esports. It usually tends to be also that those players simply aren't as good as you think they are. Like, you're looking at their best game and thinking that's what they could do all the time, but actually they couldn't. Even if they were totally motivated, they couldn't. And hey, if you don't have motivation, It's not like that's just something that can be altered directly. Maybe as a person you're not that motivated. Therefore, that's your real level. You're just not always motivated. Because if you think about it, the great players in any sport, in any esport as well, really the best player at every position tends to just play at a really high level nearly all the games, even regular season games. I mean, if you go and watch the LCK games, OGN games for this season, well, obviously, all these best of threes, tons of them, Faker doesn't have to win that game for them to win the whole thing, but he still has incredible games where he completely bodies people, has like regular season games that are as good as any game he's ever had. The best players in sports and esport do not take the regular season off. This is a myth. The idea that these players just, I only care when Worlds comes or when it's the play. That's not that. I don't know of any great player who does that. I think that's just an excuse that fans give. I don't think, because it kind of betrays a weakness within you as a player. Because if you're that great, real competitors, they want to win every time. Like I brought this up on past episodes. If you're OMG and you're playing against EDG, even if it's a throwaway game and it won't change your seeding, you should want to win just to send a message to that guy, like, I'm going to beat you next time I play you, and like, I fucked you up now, and like, if you say you didn't try, well, that's your excuse, that's not like a valid excuse. I beat you, and so the real competitors, I feel like, are always locked in for the big games. So it was always suspicious to me that Uzi would have these games off, and sometimes entire LAN tournaments off in the past.
No, I agree. I think the name of the game is consistency. And that's really what Uzi has always lacked throughout his career, which is why I've always ranked, Name and Deft and AD carries like that over Uzi, that they consistently have an amazing performance like that, and they do their job every single time, and Uzi has always just been really hit and miss.
Like, what's funny is, if you think about his best performance of the season, it was that series where he cried after the first game where he did really well and then they lost, and then he just went completely, mental the next game and just destroyed everyone. But if you think about it, that's actually a bad sign, because his best game was when it was on some Starhorn Royal Club shit where it's like, we only have one way to win, which is if I go utterly nuts now because the game's gone to shit and I have to carry. I mean, that's telling in itself there, because that was never the way OMG was going to be set up. Like, it's never going to be like that every game for you.
Yeah.
So it's not really a good sign for the future, even if that's like when you're at your best.
No, I agree.
So yeah, the episode... Listen, we're now going to move on to the other series, but we've started with kind of a somber tone here. I've tried to tone it down a little bit. Like, I haven't been too overwhelmingly smug, But if you wanted some visual imagery for this episode, okay, the scene starts. We're at the edge of a church. It's sort of like it's a sunny day, but it's a quiet sunny day. One of those days, where a light breeze blows past, some leaves come into the scene. The sun's starting to go down a little bit. In the church, you see a graveyard in front. A bell tolls in the distance. Dong, dong. Who does that bell toll for? It tolls for thee, Froskurinn. It tolls for thee and for LPL, for your dreams, for the greatness of LPL, for what these Chinese players, the all-Chinese team, would do against these heathen imports from Korea, who don't even speak Chinese. They use pings to communicate. So the bell tolls. In this graveyard, there's a freshly dug plot, and it has a gravestone in front of it, no name on it, an unmarked grave. Some say there was a young prodigy from the region buried there. Uzi, some say he was called. One loudmouthed analyst tells them, in fact, no, his name was Uzi. But either way, it's irrelevant now. He is dead and in an unmarked grave. In the background, an impish laugh is given off as a shadow passes off into the horizon. How you like that? Poetic.
That's, yeah. If only it could be Crystal.
No, Crystal's going to the semi-finals of LPL for Froskurinn.
Uzi not.
No, because they're the same player. LOLesports.com informed me that they're the same player. So I guess in that way, hey, Froskurinn, hey, I'm gonna turn evil now.
Oh, good.
See, every now and then, fans trigger me enough that my response isn't to just fight the good fight. It's just to become evil. What I do is I adopt their moronic opinions and show how moronic they are by ruining the world like they ruin the world. So what I'm gonna do now is go like this. Well, the great players just show up when it matters and are really clutch and always win under pressure. So I guess Uzi is not even a good player because he couldn't even get past a round of 8. Meanwhile, that actually means that Kid is better than Uzi, and that Crystal's better than Uzi, and if Uzi is better, why not just win? I mean, if he was better, he'd just win. So I guess Crystal's better than Uzi. So, facts.
Confirmed.
#facts. Yeah. You can't argue with that, you know. Because if we've learned one thing, and you'd think if we had learned anything for Froskurinn, that in a world where SK Gaming can lose to Unicorns of Love, we would have learned that it's not really whether or not you're better as an individual player, it's whether your team plays better. So it's actually entirely possible that inferior players, skill-wise and individually, can beat you. But no, we haven't learned that. If there's one thing we have never learned in the West, it's that whoever wins were the better players. Apparently, it turns out they were just the better players. So, yes, Kikis is better than Froskurinn, and Crystal is better than Uzi, and it goes without saying, you know, Schwen, TBQ, whatever you want to call him, another nameless man in some ways, is better than Loveling. Let's just pull up that top 20 players list again, shall we? Let's have a look.
Where's Schwen on that?
Well, no, what's interesting is, on that list, surely there was only Imp and Flame. Was Flame even on? Yeah, he was on that list, actually. I'm suspicious of that. I won't get into this now because it has nothing to do with this episode, but I'm even suspicious that Flame was on there because when I saw the way you treated Shy, I suspect that was like one of your... Since you all did all these concessions on it, I suspect you only put him that high knowing that it would infuriate me otherwise. And that you just like... I don't think you guys ever believed it because I heard your tone when you talked about him. I heard the way you flaunted Going and all this bullshit and Clear Love, and so I'm just enjoying the way this is all playing out. That's the good thing about being bold with your opinions for Froskurinn. You then get to see them play out, you know, whereas if you just get to hide them, much like, say, a Redditor, then you can just change your opinion at any point in time. Be like, oh, I always thought IG was better than VG. Yeah, VG, I never really was buying into the hype, you know. Speaking of which, let's go to another series that happened this week. Let's go to that series, because I think of the 4 series, the most interesting one, I mean, in a way, LGD OMG was just in terms of the context, but the most interesting one was IG VG, because this was the series where, in theory, even now, both teams should have been able to win this series, because it was a different match of styles. One has a lot of talent, has a lot of interesting players. The other one supposedly is the smartest team. They're the one who has the great supportive players. They have the players who, even though the team's been worse, they haven't necessarily dropped off their level. Dandy and Matt have both been very good still. So how did IG win this series in 4 games?
Well, so the opening game, Vici looked really good. That was kind of the Vici that we expected, and then things really started to take a turn. And the game that I want to talk about that I think pretty much sums up exactly what happened is Vici locked in their Twisted Fate on Hutong, and normally when they use this champion, they use it to split push, and they use it to pop Twisted Fate ult, see where the enemy is, and then immediately run away from them and just play like this pressure rotation game and just snowball towers until they have such a massive gold lead that it compensates for their inability to 5v5 correctly. And instead, he tried ganking lanes and just would immediately die and pop. So like Vici Gaming didn't play Vici Gaming style that I had come to really love and respect, and just got bodied by Cacao. That's a good summary overarching what happened in the IG versus Vici Gaming series.
You know, the most underwhelming part about this is what I referenced in the last episode, which was that, I think it was the last episode, and I mentioned that Dandy and Cacao, when they meet, it should have been that should have been, all season long, that particular matchup, that along with Impanuzzi should have been the two that were always builders. Like, these are the two players who are the godlike ones from their region, and they've got the same style, and they're going to match each other. People don't know this, but that was the first best of 5 those two have ever played offline. But when you watch the series, it's not like you can say, oh, I guess Cacao's just better than Dandy then. You just watch it, and you're just like, wow, Dandy's team sucks.
His mid laner.
What were they supposed to do?
Very suspect.
Why couldn't... Are you one of these people where because VG were billed as the smart team, like, they couldn't use that because IG somehow matched them in terms of smartness or had a good plan for them?
No, I think Vici, there's certain games where you look at them, like LGD versus OMG. This is a team both making a ton of mistakes and a team executing and changing and making themselves stronger, like learning from their mistakes really well. Like LGD, you look at their play and you say they played that really, really well. In the case of Invictus Gaming and Vici, I feel like Invictus Gaming still played well, although they did make a lot of mistakes at times. It was more Vici just playing poorly, if this makes sense. Like you have these series where it's one game, a team just plays amazing and just like crushes someone. That was like what LGD did. But in the Vici Gaming IG game, Vici just decided not to play like Vici.
Are you one of those? Did you actually predict that IG would beat VG?
I can't even remember.
That's suspicious as fuck right there. Okay.
I've had 9 concussions in my lifetime, so my memory's shit. Can't remember what I ate yesterday.
Are you counting the LGD OMG series as the 9th one? Was that the 9th concussion? Where, like, you know...
It took me a second to register what you had said.
It went dizzy, you know, you went dizzy. Suddenly, like, it was like getting hit by a flashbang. Like, you couldn't hear anything. Like, the room was shaking a bit. And you're like, what happened? And Kelsey's like, OMG just got their shit stomped in by Schwen. And you're like, I think I need to go to hospital now. I'm bleeding internally in my brain. Like, okay. So, in this series, VG versus IG... The hype all season for IG was like, oh, it's the rookie Cacao show. Like, you know, who even cares what any of the other players do? These are the two players who carry, and if their synergy is on point and it works, then they obviously it can be the best synergy in all of LPL. Mm-hmm. I mean, luckily because they're both Korean and they both have no communication issues, which unfortunately a lot of the other really good players do. Like if you think about any other player that's really really good in LPL right now, Deft being an obvious one. Well, his support player isn't Korean, so. Yeah, they've always got that natural flaw. How do you think the actual IG team overall has done? Has it been the Rookie Cacao show?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Cacao definitely really stepped up for the playoff game. He played out of his mind well. Looked really good on Gragas. That's definitely a pick that's going to be banned and taken away from him. I think it was banned in the final game between those two teams. It was interesting too because they were still kind of struggling in the beginning of the season when they were playing with Pokemon, which obviously Pokemon was an easy flaw to point at. It was pretty much guaranteed that if he didn't play Maokai, it was just going to be an awful game. Even when he had Maokai, it was mediocre at best. So they would have to sacrifice their draft phase to draft Maokai early to make sure that he could get on this comfort champion and give up power that they could normally first pick for Rookie and Cacao. When they got Zatai, the IG really swung into gear. It took Zatai a little bit of a warm-up time to figure out his picks and what was working for him in the top lane, but I've actually been really impressed with Zatai's ability to adapt to a new position. I don't think he's the best top laner, even in the top 3 top laners of LPL, but he's not bad. He's not mediocre. He's serviceable.
For context, let's point out that you have a massive crush on Zatai, and he's like if only he could reach his potential, then he'd be the best player in
fucking world, man. The problem though is consistency. Yeah. Like I can't, and this is my own bias. I'll even lay this one out for you, Thorin. Okay. I can't dislike Uzi because Zatai suffers from the same problem. Like, you know, like I can't like dislike Uzi and then really like Zatai because they're just inconsistent players.
Do you want me to diss you completely?
Sure.
There's 2 ways I can go on this Froskurinn. If I want to be rude, what I'd say is that Zatai was basically just superstar overpower because he just played super wacky champions. But that's just a diss. I just do that to fuck with you, okay? In reality, I always gave the analogy that Zatai was like the mid lane Soaz. Because the key thing is, Soaz isn't just some lame player who's just spamming cheese and weird picks. That is his strength. He's actually a superstar who's doing it. Like, what's totally unique about Soaz is that he is not only just using cheese, but he's amazing on the cheese. Now then, the problem with that is his one weakness that makes him not the... Because the problem is if he didn't have this weakness, he'd be the best player ever because he could do all the cheese and all the meta champions. Is that in general, he doesn't tend to just pick two champions, spam them and just be gods at them all the time, you know, and every game you can pick that. And that was always the thing with Zatai. He'd have these crazy champions he could play and make work, and then he'd have the crazy mechanics on some of the champions, but he was never the guy who just had like, right, well, these are the 2 meta champions right now, I'll just play them every game and I'll win every game. And so what's funny is as a top lane, in a weird way, he's suited to do that now, where it's a wide champion pool. But he's also never going to be the best player on the team if he does this.
No, I agree. His Gnar ults, though, definitely really working for IG. I think that's probably his best top lane champion, and it's his Gnar. But Cacao's Gragas was the highlight of that series. Just go to every game that Cacao plays Gragas, and that's how you do it.
Also, what's interesting to note about Cacao, and this does apply to Dandy as well, is that when you're an outsider, this is the problem with not everyone in the West watching all the Korean games all the time and watching all the Asian games, is that unfortunately when they see the players, like if they just watch an OGN final or they see a Worlds, they might have a natural bias to how they interpret Western League of Legends. So if a player is winning a championship in the West and he's doing his absolute best, your natural assumption, quite correctly, would be right. The meta fits him. He's on his best champions now. What you have to realize when you watch people like Cacao and Dandy play is the meta doesn't matter to these players. They are gods on any channel. Like, what's funny is you watch him when he wins OGN and you see him on like Nocturne, on like Kha'Zix, Rengar. Yeah, some of these are some of his best champions, but none of these is like he has to be on that champion. Now he's playing totally different champions. He plays fucking... Well, he's always been a good Lee Sin player, but people used to just permaban that against him. Now he's playing other shit, like you're mentioning now. He played... what did you say he just played this series? Yeah, Gragas, which is like the big meta pick that everyone's saying is OP now. These guys, that's what makes them gods. It's like not only they're the best player, but they're meta resistant entirely. Nidalee, he was fucking unreal on this season.
I completely agree, and it's just because it's what makes them strong as junglers. Cacao is pathing, and any champion that's mobile like that he can clear his jungle or get around these walls, Nidalee, Gragas, Lee Sin, things like that. When it's Nocturne, the clear time, the range and the reach of his ultimate, like his pathing is just absurd. So it doesn't matter what pick he has. There are picks that are obviously going to be better for him because they empower his natural abilities. And likewise with Dandy, looked really good on Rek'Sai. You have to think that Dandy's about figuring out where the enemy jungler is, scouting, securing information, vision. Even if he's not on top of someone, he always has an idea where that other guy is going to be. And on Rek'Sai, you've got the radar mechanic, so they'll look better on certain champions just because they'll empower their natural style, but their natural style is just so strong as junglers themselves that they're going to be able to transcend any sort of champion pick.
How do you think that the Mata Vasily bot lane, what grade would you give it for the whole season and for this series?
Probably a C. That's passing, right?
Sure.
Vasily did play better in the Vici Gaming IG series. I will say that. I've been really hard on Vasily just because, and it's not necessarily all Vasily's fault. He's in a region where you're playing with people like Imp and Daft. So the caliber and skill that he's facing with has just gone up. So, I mean, he's been consistent to his performance, but instead of, maybe the top 80 carry being here on Vasily and Vasily being here, now they're up here, and he's still just right here. Did have Mata to buff him and prop him up, but Mata's had some issues with communicating with the team and really agreeing there, and I think it really shows in some of his performances when Mata just decides to ditch the bot lane and go hang out with Dandy. But the big flaw for the series for Vici was definitely Hatong.
Was there no way around it? Was there no way they could have shielded him? Or
Carrie and Dandy tried their hardest to carry those games. I think Carrie played Gnar and played Rumble. I'm trying to think. I know his Gnar, he got some amazing ultimates, but it was just like too little, too late. Dandy had spent so many of his resources trying to take care of Hatong and Vasily and Mata and making sure that Cacao didn't body him in the jungle that he wasn't able to get Carrie really going, and so the top laner's impact, because normally like Carrie, he's actually fairly good. Like if you're thinking about Vici Gaming's all Chinese players, I would say Carrie's probably the best one, probably Carrie, Vasily, Hatong, and he just wasn't able to pay enough attention to him.
So one of the biggest problems with China is that probably from a cultural perspective, it's very hard as a Westerner to know who will make a roster change, what the roster change would be. We can't really predict it in the way that we can in the West. And partly because they have a super wide pool of talent. Mm-hmm. Much like Korea, they tend to do that thing where they'll recruit like no-namers rather than just like, if it's you or I, we'll say like, right, I need this position, right, get this known player from this other team. Instead, they'll just go with talent. And also there's the fact that because they're so rich, they've all locked up all this talent. Mm-hmm. Is VG a team that does roster changes, you think?
And this is the other question that I really have, is who's going to retain their Korean talent? Because everyone's kind of like, when are the Koreans going to go back to Korea? When is this economic bubble of China going to pop and they lose all of this talent? Obviously, I would love to retain the Korean talent because it's a lot of fun to watch them and see how they work with.
Is it Froskurinn? Is it fun to put Dandy and Mata in prison and have them go out in the round of fucking 8 to Zitai top lane? Meanwhile, they could be on the best team in Korea again. Is that fun? Is that fun for you, Froskurinn, to torture the world? Is it fun for you to see other people's loves die like your own love, OMG, died?
To see Save on the bench for the entire season, yeah, and then play mid lane.
Watching going like, I could do better than that. Put me in the game, coach.
If they retain their talent and keep Dandy and Mata, they're obviously going to need to upgrade their mid laner. That's probably going to be the first position. There's tons of talent to choose from that are sitting on benches, but I mean, to break one of those contracts is ridiculous sums of money. And then likewise, you have VG Point, are one of the LSPL teams moving in. So that team's going to get rebranded, renamed, but you have that whole other roster that they now have to pick from. Because just like Masters 3 and World Elite, even though they're not technically the same team, like obviously an organization can't own two different teams, they still have a lot of overlapping players as far as their bench is concerned, appearing as subs and roster swaps between the two teams. So we do have an idea of kind of what Vici's pool is.
So let's talk about the EDG versus Team WE series. Now, this is the thing, okay? Here's the thing: the concept of this show, this vehicle I've created, okay, is like I made a show so that Froskurinn can explain Chinese League of Legends to me, you know, and then, you know, much as has been the theme recently in my life. Like, you know, Monty just starts doing his own shows and suddenly he has his own YouTube channel. Suddenly OGN's doing my show, like one of my shows from my channel, just on their channel. Like, I create a show so that Froskurinn can explain League of Legends to me. Next thing I know, like, videos are coming out. She's like explaining League of Legends to other guys. You know, my mother told me it would be like this with girls. Like, you don't trust any of them. Like, they'll only betray you and break your heart if you give it to them. So let's talk now about EDG versus Team WE. The first thing to get out of the way, and I actually discussed this on Some of the Insight, but that was with Kelsey, and so I want to get your take on it, is I don't feel like it's fair for people to bill this as like, oh, the 8th best team almost beat the best team, because this wasn't the best team for the first 4 games.
I agree with that entirely. Thank you for bringing that up, because nothing drives me crazier than all of and they all come out of the woodwork, like on Twitter and Reddit and things like that. They're like, huh, you said World Elite was a bad team. Well, they took EDG to 5 games, so. Sorry, TSM's the greatest team. They just beat that IEM, they beat World Elite, the team that almost beat EDG, so TSM confirmed, going to beat EDG.
But in terms of this series, in the first 4 games, how would you describe that EDG? Because this in the first 2 games, they won. People forget. They did stomp the first 2 with a fucking sub. That's pretty good.
Especially a sub that, I guess this is you've probably read the press release on this, or just EDG's account of what happened. They took Pawn to the hospital early morning, and Sanshao, the manager, very nice guy, runs into Yu's room, just like bangs open the door and is like, are you ready to play? You're playing today. Yu like wakes up, stumbles out of his slumber, and the first question he asks him is, are you drunk? And Yu says, no, I'm not drunk. Okay, you're playing.
Do you think that's revealing of the culture in China for pro gamers?
I know that Tabe, the big sweetheart that everyone really loves from Starhorn World Club way back when, because his English was so good and he just wants to win so he can marry his girlfriend. Nothing against Tabe. Sure he's a great guy, but I know that he is a massive partier. Goes out like every single night and just drops insane amounts of money because he's very popular now.
Well, I don't love him, but I won't get into that. One day, maybe I'll do a little video about him one day and drop the bomb on who Tabe actually is. Because unsurprisingly, as is a little theme in esports, the nice guys, those good guys, they're always the pieces of shit. So moving on. Because we're not talking about Tabe right now. He's not playing in this game. So EDG in this particular series, here's the thing. On one hand, they did play with a sub. Mm-hmm. On another hand, first of all, it's a sub they've used already in the season. Didn't they use him in the Demacia Cup as well, I think, at some point in time? Maybe?
No.
They used him in LPL, definitely.
Maybe.
Didn't they use him in the last weeks of LPL?
I honestly...
Come on, they did. They definitely used him at
least...
Okay, they used him at least in the last week or so.
I'm sure that they've probably had you start, at least had some experience.
And he was, like, one of the best starting mid laners last year. Yeah. And remember, in China, that doesn't mean, like, all the way back in Worlds. That means there were tournaments between them. Demacia Cup, well, the one before they got Deft and EDG and put them in lineup, okay, when they had Nami still on the line. So he's played, you know, in like December or something. I think he last played as the main start, something along those lines. So it's not quite fair to go the other way too far and be like, he was a total sub, he was just a guy they brought in last second. So if we imagine a world where this just is EDG now, a Pawn just can't exist, we just those first 4 games, how do you judge their level as a team? They're still a very good team.
Yeah. I feel like this gets into a debate of Pawn versus you, and that's what a lot of fans want to make it about. And the thing is both of these mid laners, because I really highly respect you, and obviously Pawn is very good, and there's no doubt in my mind that Pawn is the better mid laner for EDG's current form. But I don't want this to translate into Pawn is the better mid laner than you. They just have vastly different styles, and the style that EDG has found a ton of success on works far better with Pawn. He's the perfect piece for it. So yeah, EDG was still strong with you, but it completely changes their team dynamic, and it's not as powerful as this new EDG form has shown itself to be.
Couldn't they have won before they even needed Pawn? Couldn't they have just won 3-1 or 3-0?
Yeah, if they didn't decide to dick around in their draft phase. I've never seen, that was the first time I've ever seen Clearlove play Gragas, and it was awful. And that's kind of a little bit alarming just because Gragas is the new OP champion.
See, it's good when you set things up for Froskurinn.
Okay.
See,
here comes the cacao dandy swipe. Who doesn't transcend? Oh, okay.
Just meta resistant, no matter who you're playing with, you're just great on every champion. And about Clearlove, on what is currently considered to be the OP broken champion.
He has the highest KDA in LPL.
Okay, well in that case, if we go back,
in that
case he's better than Cacao then.
I don't say that. Don't take me saying my defense of Clearlove to say that he's like the greatest player.
What was the relevance then?
But the thing is he constantly gets shit on, and Clearlove is better than you guys give him credit for.
Shit on in your world is like, he's maybe like the 10th best jungler of all time. He's the 3rd best of all. Like, okay.
Well, I didn't see him at all on your list of top 20 players of all time.
Wait a minute. You didn't see him on my list of the top 20 players of all positions in the history of League of Legends.
Yep.
Yeah, you know who else wasn't on that list? Like Macnoon wasn't on that list. Tons of great players who are much better than Clearlove weren't on that list.
I think Clearlove
Uzi wasn't on that list.
I think Clearlove's better than Uzi.
I think it's the other way around. I think you disrespect people who you throw off that list to put him on. Not least because the best part is you put him on the list with his old form, then he went up a level this season, so I guess he's just the best player ever then.
Clearlove has some of the longest list of achievements that a player has ever had. He was the jungler for both World Elite and EDG, two of the most domestic, dominant teams.
Okay, so does FCZF. So does FCZF.
FCZF didn't play this season. Clearlove,
FCZF has better achievements than Mad Life.
EDG just won their 10th title. Like, I understand that you can't just rate achievements over everything.
So he won,
and there is a middle ground. Like, I'm not saying
he
Clearlove
won
is
one
the best jungler of all time, but
he only won one LAN better than FCZF. He only won one LAN extra than FCZF. So 99% of his career, FCZF has the same accomplishments.
Well, if EDG win LPL finals, he'll have won 2 LANs more than FCZF.
Oh, it's about winning LPLs now, right? Well, in that case, I'll just inform you that...
Waiting?
What do you think? Who should we go with here to make this the funniest version? Koro won. He has 2 LPL titles. So he's better than anyone with 1 LPL title. So Koro won better than Lovely.
That's not...
Going.
No.
Why not?
If we're gonna judge how good a player is, it's gonna be... You always set up. Like, every time I have this discussion with you, you have to have like a rubric that you go by. And
that's what's telling is that your first place you go to is the accomplishments. See, I always go backwards.
No, it's just an
first place I go to, first criteria I go to is level of play. Then I look at who did they play with?
Is one of your biggest things.
What sort of role did they play with in the team? Then I look at accomplishments domestically. Then I look at national cup, and I bring it all in. If you have to start at accomplishments, that's you're trying to sell me something.
I didn't start at accomplishments. This is just one of the ones that I threw up. I didn't say accomplishments is the #1 most important thing. No, it's just when talking about Clearlove, and it's not even just you, just the Western audience in general really diss on this guy. And because they saw him, their primary exposure to him was on the world stage. And yeah, Clearlove did not play well on the world stage. Totally agree, that's a hit against him. But there are so many other factors to Clearlove that make him a viable and a strong jungler. Not just domestically, but on this list of these players of all time.
So let's just put the context out there to ensure that everyone in the West hates you.
Okay.
One of the problems with having Clearlove be this beast godlike player who was one of the best players ever of any position is that it means Team WE has too many of those players. They have too many gods on one team. So we have to demote someone from god status. So the obvious pick that you have to sacrifice to the gods is you have to give up Messiah. So you're just telling the Western audience now that Clearlove is a better all-time player than Messiah, correct?
Okay.
Well,
Why did I have to sacrifice him?
You've done your work for... Oh, okay, so they just have 3 of the best players of all time on their team.
I think Wei Xiao is amazing.
Team WE have 3 of the top 20 players of all time in one lineup.
Messiah, and I've talked to you about this before, the more that I evaluate him, the less that I do credit him to a lot of the success. I know that the wave management for World Elite, and they were one of the first teams to start experimenting with like slow push and things like that and wave control. Messiah was a big part of that. Obviously his Twisted Fate play, he was known as determining how a champion was played, but that said, alongside like if you're putting him next to Wei Xiao and Clearlove, like Wei Xiao determined how an entire role was played or helped define how a role was played. So yes, I would say between, like, if you're looking at World Elite as a team, I would still go Wei Xiao and then I would go to Clearlove. I really like Clearlove.
Of course, yeah. So in that case,
all I want is just people to stop shitting on him as hard.
So all I'm going to ask Froskurinn, is if we had Clearlove, this great player, one of the best players ever in your mind, and he was on a team like EDG, very, very good,
okay,
and okay, he doesn't have pawns, he doesn't have the same lineup he had all season, but you know, he's a serviceable player. He has Deft, who maybe is the best player in the region at the moment, and then he was to go against a player like Spirit, who has in general not that great a team. How do you think they matched up, Spirit versus Clearlove, in this series?
I mean, Clearlove, the big problem for EDG where they started to falter, because like you said, they won the first 2 games. When they started to stall out, draft phase was a suspect problem. Picking champions that they didn't perform on as well, giving Spirit champions that he excels massively on. And not saying that Spirit is locked into those champions, that he can only play on them, but for the context of what World Elite need him to play and the style and the role that he needs to perform, these are the champions like Nidalee that he's going to be massive on. So that was an issue. Draft phase was a serious problem for EDG on those 2 games that they lost. Was it the only problem? No, of course not. But that was the start of it.
Oh, by the way, just for context for fans again who are keeping score, Froskurinn has Clearlove ranked above Cacao.
Okay.
By the way, Cacao didn't even make her list. You know about disrespecting players and shitting on them? Cacao didn't even make her top 20.
He's on it.
And
what are you talking about?
Where was he?
I can't remember where, but he's definitely on it. I know for sure Cacao is on that list. He's like,
I'm not going to look it up now. I can't be bothered looking it up right now, but I'm fairly sure he wasn't.
He was definitely on the list. He was lower than Clearlove, I will say.
Spirit sure as hell wasn't.
I can't remember.
He definitely wasn't. He can't be. There's only 20 names.
I can't remember.
So all-time best junglers ever, you've got him ranked above Cacao and Spirit for sure. Because, you know, the accomplishments. Yeah.
All I'm trying to make on the argument of incoming aggression, I haven't come out here on this platform and said that Clearlove is the best jungler of all time. That is not what I'm saying.
No, you're saying he's like the 3rd best jungler of all time.
He's not as bad as people make him out to be. That was all. That was
no,
just my defense of Clearlove.
Let's be clear here. You're saying he's the 3rd best jungler of all time.
I think right now, if I had to call who is the greatest junglers of all time in LPL, just in LPL, stick to my domestic region, because that's the region that I can talk about.
Coward. Okay.
Cacao has performed better most recently than Clearlove. Spirit is amazing, possibly the best jungler in LPL. But I would put Clearlove over Dandy right now, just because of his impact and his role in the team.
Anyway, back to the series.
Zing! What? Come on, come at me. You're not going to argue the Dandy versus Clearlove?
That's nothing. I mean, look at Clearlove's solo laners, look at Dandy's solo laners. Game over. How are you supposed... What's the point in giving a kill to someone who can't use it and do anything with it?
But just... okay. We always talk about how Cacao and Dandy are strong and what makes them strong, but we never talk about like what makes Clearlove strong. You just keep throwing like it's just the accomplishment, just the fact that he's won a lot. Well, how does he win a lot? Like that's what's important about.
Yeah, how does he win a lot? Well, what he does is he has more prime teammates than anyone in the history of League of Legends who wasn't on a Samsung team. That's how he wins. He has prime Wei Xiao, he has prime Messiah, he has prime Pawn, he has prime Deft, he has prime Name. Hey, let's throw you in there. He has prime Yu. He has the best coach in the region. You know how he wins all those titles, Froskurinn? Are you ready? Are you ready for the bombshell that I'm about to drop on you?
Let's go.
He is the greatest Chinese coattail rider in history. Yeah? You know why I say that? It's not entirely accurate. Like, obviously, he's not like the worst player on the team, so he's not really just riding someone's coattails. But in sports, okay, I always make this key analogy. When people rank basketball players, for example, they don't just look at the number of championships you won and say, right, you're better than this player who has less championships, because it's all about, were you like the star player of your team? Because obviously, if I'm the star player of my team, but my team's fairly weak, if I win even one championship, I might have been like the best player ever, you know, that I could get that team to win a championship. Meanwhile, if I'm like the fourth best player on a team that's full of superstars who are other godlike players, not only am I probably not better than them, but it's hard to rank me above players on other teams.
There's
like that.
something potent and powerful about pointing at Dandy in the Samsung White lineup and saying he's the carry of that team. Like, just because Dandy was surrounded or had these resources of having amazing teammates didn't take away from Dandy's strength, and that's what you're trying to do with ClearLove. I understand weighting the importance of having strong teammates around you and having resources that you're able to play with, but that's not the end-all be-all, and I feel like you overweight that against ClearLove. You can point at him in the EDG, and this is my theory about EDG. I think EDG only performs to the ceiling ClearLove creates.
Yeah, but that's the problem. You say that, but then what you're essentially admitting there, but you're not, because you're not admitting it to yourself, is that when ClearLove sucks, his team can't win. Yeah, it's because you need a jungler to win in this game, believe it or not.
But that's the thing. They need ClearLove. Like, everyone wants to go to Pawn.
Okay.
Like, especially with this story and this narrative of World Elite and EDG. Like, Pawn, you know, ripping through the hospital and getting back and winning the game for EDG. Oh, Pawn's the true carry. He's the guy.
Okay.
EDG can't do anything with that. They're Korean acquisitions. And let's be frank. Like I said, Pawn is definitely an upgrade over you for the current iteration of EDG and playing to that amazing performance that they've had. And EDG this season is better than EDG last season. Deft is the best AD carry in the world right now. He's playing amazing. He doesn't lose lane. He's fantastic. It's awesome. Yes, the Koreans are incredible on EDG, but it is ClearLove who dictates how fast and how hard EDG are going to win, and how, like, it's ClearLove who makes sure camping and roaming with Mako and feeding Deft all these kills and facilitating that lane strength. And it's ClearLove that's always there on the skirmishes with Pawn to make sure that he gets his lead, so then Pawn can then walk into the enemy jungle and just blow someone up.
Remember, when we compare ClearLove to someone, we're not comparing him to all other junglers. We're comparing him to the other best junglers of all time. That's how the discussion works. So we're comparing him to Dandy, we're comparing him to Kakao, we're comparing him to Diamond Prox. So the difference is, these players in general don't just suck for games. Like, Kakao and Dandy don't just suddenly suck for a game. And yet in your world, that's a positive for ClearLove. That when he doesn't do well, that when he doesn't do well, that's a positive in his behalf. That just shows how much he carries, that his team can't win when he does badly. That's convenient. Yeah. Even when you do badly, it makes you actually better.
I'm sure
shows how valuable you are.
That there are games in Kakao and Spirit and Dandy's history where they have failed to perform at least.
I bet there's way less than ClearLove, though. You know what you've done? You've taken. Okay, here. Are you ready for the analogy? You ready for a patented Thorin analogy here?
I'm ready.
You know when girls who are really pretty girls, but they're incredibly high maintenance, one of the things they do to excuse the fact that, yeah, they're really beautiful, they're really attractive women, maybe they even have great personalities, but one of the ways they excuse their bad behavior when they're really rude and they're very picky and they're overly dramatic is they'll use that classic line that we've all heard put on Facebook where they're like, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. That's like the way you treat ClearLove. Like, look at the way, if you can't accept him at his worst, then you don't get to see him at his best. Like, that's your philosophy on ClearLove right there.
ClearLove has the highest kill participation on his team.
Congrats.
Last year he had the highest kill participation of any jungler for any team. Like EDG doesn't do anything without ClearLove. And what makes ClearLove strong and his style that makes him great is even if he's not making those insane ganks. Like if you think about him versus Kakao and like just a style, not him versus Kakao, but just stylistically how they are as junglers. Kakao, that creative pathing, you know, being this really aggressive jungler, being the playmaker, like this is fantastic. ClearLove is kind of the inverse of it. if Coral's really far forward in his lane, ClearLove is always there as like the pressure. There's never going to be a time where someone from EDG gets ganked and they're all by themselves. ClearLove will be there. He'll always show up when he needs to, but he's just consistently farming, be that herbivore style jungler, but just so good at shadowing the pressure. And then when the objectives and the control and the pressure moves down to the other side of the map, he's always there. There's never a point where ClearLove is out of position.
You know what else is beautiful? In 2 of the teams ClearLove's played in, their whole style was based around going late game, at which point he could just become like a 5th carry and just join in the fight as like a team fighter, okay?
Whoa, his style is skirmish based.
I'm talking about the 2 past teams he was on, EDG of 2014 and World Elite. So the other players we're comparing him to are gods at every point of the game, and they don't even need to go to late game because their team wins at 20 minutes or wins at 25 minutes.
ClearLove has proven that he's able to do that this season on EDG in 2015.
Well, how is that relevant to the last 2 years?
I don't understand how in the last 2 years you're making the statement that...
I don't understand how you're giving him a fucking... He hasn't even won anything yet. He won a Demacia Cup. That's it, love.
Oh, so now the accomplishments, because he hasn't accomplished it 2015 with his style.
You've like given him the World Championship already. Oh, and in 2015, you know what he's accomplished with EDG? No, I don't, mate. I saw him just almost lose the best of 5 series. That's it, and play a tournament that everyone else seemed to not give a fuck about. Oh, okay. Well, how many titles has he won? None. We're talking about when he... Unsurprisingly, I'm taking the real tournaments he played in when he actually had to play proper series against proper teams, and I'm judging those. I'm not judging fucking 44 exhibition games in LPL as like the height of someone's career. Put it this way, I'll put it another way. If this season was ClearLove's best season as it stands right now, well then he hasn't had much of a fucking career, has he? It's just the regular season of LPL and a Demacia Cup. That can't be your best accomplishments.
I don't think it's his best season, but I think it's...
No, his performance though.
He's more consistent in playing to that higher level ClearLove. It's like the carnivore jungler versus the herbivore jungler, and he's been able to switch between the styles. But the issue in the what's the word I'm looking for? Argument against ClearLove that people like to use is that he's not that carnivore jungler that he needs to be as consistently as he should be. Because again, we talked about how consistency makes good players into amazing players. So yes, that's a valid argument there that in this new form where he is being more consistent on that top end side of ClearLove, he hasn't accomplished anything. I will give you that.
Anyway, in this series, we had the 5th game where Pawn had to come in as an emergency, and they obviously won their game. He played Kassadin. Going beyond that, it sounds like it's actually unlikely that Pawn can play all the rest of the playoff series. Maybe they can use him for the odd game or something, but he's not just going to come back in the starting lineup, right?
I heard most recently that he was stabilized and that he should be playing, but I don't know if it's going to be the immediate, like the very next semifinals game, especially because this tournament format is super suspect for how back-to-back and lack of preparation it's allowing teams. But the latest update that they gave is he's stabilized and we're trying to work him back into the team. And you was streaming today, like he wasn't practicing with the team, so I would assume that actually Pawn was playing with the team.
So going forwards, now we'll do IG versus EDG. Oh no, we have to do the other series first before we do that. Okay, we'll do the King Snake one first.
Oh god, can we just not?
So this was 5 games and King almost won Froskurinn. They almost did it.
Yeah, and then the very last game, they decided to...
What do you mean, how can we not? This should be your favorite series where Crystal was fucking terrible and King almost beat Snake.
But this is the thing, like, this is my big thing about ClearLove, too. I just feel like he gets so much unwanted hate, and then I feel like Crystal, it's like the inverse of ClearLove. He just gets so much unwanted praise. And to be frank, and just to be clear, I don't wish any ill on Crystal. I don't hate him as a person. I just make this I go way too far just because it's funny as like a parody to like just put my hate down on Crystal. The only reason I dislike Crystal, because he's a good AD carry.
You know what's
he's
great
not
right
amazing,
now?
though.
Yeah, okay, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, go. Is that he's not the carry of Snake. He is not the carry of Snake. And this series showed who the carries of Snake are. It's always been Beast and it's always been Ella. They are the amazing players of that team.
Do you know what's great?
What?
Take that whole segment of what you just said there. Imagine I was saying it. Replace the word Crystal with ClearLove. Replace the words Beast and Ella with Name and Wei Zhao, and you just summed it up right there. You just solved your own problem there, Froskurinn. I don't hate him. I'm hyperbolic about it. Just because people overly praise him and give him too much credit, and yeah, perfect. I couldn't even have set that off any better. So well done there. Well done. So in this series, though, why was King able to get this close to winning?
King have always had good players on their team. Their jungler, though, is not one of them, although MLXG did have a better series than he's had pretty much his entire LPL career so far. And that really showed. Like, Crystal didn't perform very well, had the same issues where he overextends, he just gets deleted in team fights. King had better draft phases, and I hate to put so much emphasis on draft because I don't think it's really fair to a lot of teams to say, like, game's over as soon as champion select comes up, but it was a major issue in the King versus Snake series. But
Has this shaken your faith of how Snake will do beyond this?
No, I mean, the thing is we've been saying from the beginning, my problem with Snake, and yeah, I think that Snake's a really exciting team to watch. I think the current patch buffs them up because it's all about team fighting. Snake is a very good team fighting team, but it's been super obvious and very apparent that Snake have been playing their heart out. Like, you talk about competitors who they didn't take the LPL season off. They played to their max capability every single time.
I know how that must disgust you, because your favorite players don't do that.
But then we have Invictus Gaming and we have LGD, probably the most obvious one, who it was very clear that they were, fucking around, that they were trying to secure their seed. They locked in at the very end. Misfortune, like random picks like that, and they were kind of tweaking things, changing the roster between Flame and Acorn, and now they're just this completely different animal that we projected them to be, of marrying, strategy versus mechanics, and looking great, that 3 over OMG, which we didn't predict, but it's really nice to see that LG, they were faking it, they were sandbagging, and they came out with all this great performance. So Snake, especially because they're going to be facing off against LGD, have been playing their heart out. Nothing has changed. We've seen the ceiling of Snake, and we just now saw this brand new ceiling of LGD. So that's really concerning for them moving forward. But this is what we said from the beginning. Yeah, Snake's good, but come playoffs, when the other LPL teams decide to throw the weights off, which LGD just did on OMG's face, I don't think Snake's going to go farther.
Still top 4, though. Still top 4
And-
in LPL. Still top. You can't deny that. It's already happened for us. They're top 4 in LPL.
Locked in at least.
Higher than VG, higher than Star and Royal Club, higher than a whole lot of people. Just top 4 at least. They're on a free roll now, baby. They can go further than this. So let's talk about that series. Snake versus LGD. Snake is the higher seed of the two.
I don't know. Maybe, yes.
I
Because
believe they literally
LGD
are,
is 6th,
so.
yeah, and Snake's
So history would tell us Snake should be favoured here, right?
no.
I watched a show called China Talk, and they informed me that Snake was going to the final for Froskurinn. So explain that to me.
LGD showed a new ceiling cap. That's what happened in their latest series against OMG, and I'm not just talking about the fact that they 3-0'd OMG. I'm not just talking about the result. How they 3-0'd OMG. The criticism that we've always had of LGD is that they take PYL out of Imp's lane, and they take resources away from Imp because that's their style. It's that PYL is their primary roam, he's their shot caller. So the quicker that LGD have gotten him involved with their team fights in the past, the faster LGD have been able to kind of snowball ahead. Their early game has always been very suspect. They come into their series against OMG, and we'll see if this is going to be the actual trend or if maybe this was just that one series that they performed really well in, because, again, OMG obviously really shit the bed. But they shifted it. It's now Acorn and it's Twin that are more of the roaming presence. Yeah, PYL still roamed occasionally, but more often than that, he was staying to that 2v2 or staying around Imp and really playing to him. And so the fact that they tweaked their weaknesses and we saw like an immediate upgrade, an immediate shift, speaks volumes to how much LGD have improved. The fact that they were able to win with Callista, where in the season they were really struggling with that as they were experimenting with the pick.
I mean, this should be the series you're looking forward to, because now you get to see Imp in a best of 5 against Crystal. Now we get to see what's actually up,
The one thing that I am concerned about, Beast Ella, the carries of Snake, Twin played very well in his OMG series, and I say that very loosely. He played probably the best performance he's ever had. I think that's fair to say. It wasn't a disappointment. He did his job. He did the vision control for his team. He was that roam. If he's consistently able to perform like that, or
are we sure that Beast is the carry? I mean, do we know what his kill participation is? Do you have that stat offhand?
I'd have to pull up my stat sheet.
Okay, yeah. I thought I just assumed it went without saying. I mean, if he has the highest, then he'd be the carry. So yeah. Interesting how those things work, isn't it? Yeah. There's a famous saying In fact, two famous sayings.
I'm ready.
One, when it comes to stats, is that if you torture the numbers enough, they'll tell you anything. That's the point of stats, is they don't actually tell you anything. You then have to still interpret using them and explain what they mean.
Yes.
And there's another great saying about stats, one that I've repeated many times, because I know you'll appreciate it. They say that stats are like a bikini. What they reveal is, what they reveal is, I think, something like provocative, but what they conceal is vital. That's the key thing to understand. It's to understand what the stat's not telling you. That's the real area to know. So that if you were to look at, say, kill participation, you'd ask, why would he have such a thing? What would that say about some other players and the fact that they could still do so? You know, it's just interesting to put these things out there. Food for thought, things to ponder.
And Clear Love stats, the only extrapolation or speculation, that I'm making with that is that, yeah, it's obvious to say that, of course, the jungler is going to have the highest.
In fact, here's the thing.
Because obviously they're the person ganking the whole fucking map. But in EDG 2014, all of EDG's members, 4 of their members had over a 70% kill participation. Like 4 members on the same team all have 70% kill participation, which you then say, okay, well, why is that? Like, how does that stat even lead into their style? Well, it's because they're like Samsung Blue and they would only fight and do anything when they were grouped up as 5. But Clearlove had the highest one, so they would never do anything without him. Again, it carries over. Like, that's just how these stats work with Clearlove, and what I'm trying to speculate about his playstyle and like the stats to back up what's happening in these games. Nothing happens without Clearlove. And obviously, yeah, he's the jungler, but like nothing happens.
If anything, you're doing great work making arguments here, because what you've just said is like, Clearlove had incredibly high kill participation. Oh, wow, that is quite startling. I hadn't really thought of that. What about the rest of his teammates? Oh yeah, they all had really higher ones as well.
The argument, though, is that Clearlove doesn't do anything, and he does.
I've never said he doesn't do anything. I've never said that once. Actually, here's the analogy for you. Are you ready for another metaphor? Are you ready to go? Clearlove.
Why do you keep...
I'm going to give you an analogy from my own life, okay? One of the problems that I have when I'm talking to male friends of mine, or female friends, is that I have a predilection, Froskurinn, for girls that have massive tits. I love me a big pair of tits. And so I actually value it. I don't even deny. In some senses, I'm quite shallow, okay? I don't need them to have such an awesome personality. I don't need them to be super engaging in conversation. I don't need them to battle me on principles and to be people who help the environment and all that. If they just have a lovely pair of tits and everything else is serviceable and we're having a nice time, we're having fun, we're having drinks, we're having a nice time, then I'm perfectly happy. I'm loving life. This is exactly what I'm looking for in life. So what'll happen is my more intelligent male friends or women that I know who are like I'm friendly with but just on a platonic level, they'll be like, oh, that's so shallow, you obviously only like that girl because she's got the massive like she's not even that intelligent, like how can you enjoy conversation with her? And I just say, listen, none of that matters to me. She has a lovely pair of tits and I like that, and I'm committed to that. And I see a future with these tits, okay? And so what's happened here is I'm constantly telling you all the things that Clearlove isn't, and all the things he can't do, and all the areas in which someone else is better. They have a better personality, they have interesting ideas, they're good for the world, they're trying to change themselves, they're trying to become a more evolved being, they're a better match, and you're just like, but he's got a great pair of tits though, hasn't he? And it's like, you can't get off that, can you, Froskurinn? It's the kill participation, it's the team fighting. You can't get over what a wonderful pair Clearlove has.
Hello. I'm
classic Thorin analogy.
I'm just waiting for you to put in the timer for this. Clearlove's tits. Beginning. End.
What do you think of this theory?
If his tits are his team fighting ability, I mean, yeah, I think there's some validity to that statement. I'm trying to think of any jungler who I think, in my evaluation, because obviously I'm the one who's ranking Clearlove so highly, team fights better than Clearlove, and the only person that I can really think of is Spirit. I wish I
Again,
could
we're
see
talking
your
about
facial expression.
we're talking about 2015 only here, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how it always goes that way, isn't it? Yeah. It's interesting.
What? I'm just talking about most recent performance. He's an amazing team fighter. He's always been an amazing team fighter.
Yeah, but that's only one aspect of the game, though.
I just told you about his whole other jungle pressure that everyone seems to ignore, like his jungle style. Because people, when they write off Clearlove's jungle style,
he has played for like 4 years, but you're only counting the last 4 months. Why is that?
I counted his time with EDG last year.
Well, where was all that amazing ganking pressure and all that at that point in time?
Okay, I wasn't talking about that as his primary, like, consistency.
Okay,
consistency for Clear Love. Because obviously he has those crazy games where he just is that amazing Korean and Chinese solo queue player.
Listen,
where he
this
just,
is
like,
why
goes
the
on his
metaphor
grind all week
fits.
then.
The reason the metaphor fits is that I'm not saying you don't love tits. You clearly love this amazing pair of tits that Clear Love has. What I'm saying is, I know that it's right to a degree. This girl doesn't have everything, you know. But I just love the tits so much, I value it over everything else. Even when I know it's not the most cultured view on the world, you know. But I just love them too much. I can't get over it. It works every time for me. Every time I come back, I'm like, still working, still awesome, still loving this, still all into this, you know. You just have to admit, Froskurinn, that you just really love tits. And then once you admit that to yourself, you'll be able to move on with your life and stop evaluating people as too good, okay?
How did we get into this situation where I was manipulated into this?
Yeah. Well, that's just the way it goes. So
Thorin,
anyway.
I really like tits on Clear Love.
Oh, okay. Or just on Clear Love. Yeah, sure, yeah. Because actually, you know, as irony would have it, you know. So anyway, moving on. So... going forwards, we've got Snake versus LGD.
It took him 8 episodes to do this. Like, this is incredible.
I didn't say anything. I just left the right atmosphere in the air, you know. All the clues. Pick up on the Easter eggs, fans.
Everything had to align perfectly.
Yep. Yeah.
That was amazing.
So, when Snake play versus LGD, who do you think is going to win?
LGD. I hope LGD wins. I think that they're going to win. It's hard to say, though, just because... they haven't shown that this is their new trend. They showed one series, and it was a very convincing series at the start of their playoffs that, you know, this is how this is going to go, and this is our new format of playing. You know, we've taken pressure off of PYL. We've given it to Chwin. He's able to handle this responsibility. Looked really good. If that continues, then yes, they should beat Snake. If Chwin is not able to handle the responsibility, if he goes back to his old ways, then that's the piece, that's the chip in the chain that Snake can really abuse. That said, everywhere else on the map, LGD far outperform Snake in 1v1 individual talent.
Yeah, I think LGD is going to win this one.
Yeah.
But I also think Snake must surely be better than that King series. I think they could probably win a game. In fact, actually, it should be closer, I think, overall.
Depending on, like, the team that Snake get, and if LGD don't do anything for their early game, and it comes to that, like, if they don't get any free kills as far as, like, map pressure, and it's just an elongated lane phase, and we come into, like, a dragon fight, then, yeah, it's a 50-50 that Snake can really start to snowball ahead, just because they are so good at team fighting. And a big issue is that a lot of the hard initiation tools, like the primary go button, the trigger button, is on Chwin. And Chwin played fantastic in his OMG series, but if he doesn't play fantastic in the Snake series, and that's like, if he's playing Sejuani, or someone as important as the Glacial Prism ult, don't want that guy on the go button.
In the other semi-final, IG versus EDG. Now, this is really hard to predict just because of the whole who knows what EDG team will turn up. And so give me like a version in which... Okay, we'll do 3 versions of this prediction, okay?
Okay.
IG versus a team with only you in it. IG versus a team with Pawn in it for every game. And then the third option is the same as what we had in the round of 8, like IG versus a team where if they need to as an emergency, they'll bring Pawn in as the last one. So go with the first one first. Imagine that you is just going to only be the mid laner. What would that EDG versus IG be like, you think?
The strength of Invictus Gaming has always been their draft phase. I think that they're a very smart team about it. Kelsey calls them the counter strategy team. I think that's pretty fair. The most obvious thing is that you is a sub. And yeah, you, like you said, was the starter. Like, he's not super formed, but he hasn't practiced with the team. And you're facing down probably the other strongest jungle mid synergy duo in the LPL, and Cacao and Rookie.
You do realize, by the way, no one has picked up on this. This is why I'm the best, is that people love easy puns that you can make into a storyline. So do you know that one of the most famous types of sub is a German sub called a U-boat? So you is a sub, literally. But no one's picked up on that. Lolly Sports, you failed me. That should have been like title of articles. You didn't do anything with it. So I've just, it's too late now. I've revealed it at the end, but there you go. There's a little free shit that I just throw out shit that like is like prime material freak. Like, he's writing this stuff down, saving it in like little black books, and having script writers work on it. I'm just throwing these things away. Yeah, throw it in. Here. Yeah, keep going.
The counter argument, of course, that you can make is, well, you and Clearlove were mid and jungle for all of 2014, so this shouldn't be a problem. Again, the issue, though, is that Clearlove and you, their dynamic between the mid and jungle wasn't Rookie and Pawn. Like, Rookie and Pawn are just so aggressive. It's ganking that lane. It's being forward. Did I say Rookie and Pawn? Rookie and Cacao. It's almost like Rookie and Cacao's relationship in IG is how Pawn and Clearlove work. So that's like the big mismatch as far as stylistically, and I don't think that Yu's a better player than Rookie. I'm pretty sure in just a 1v1, if Yu's going to have to play super passive and very back and kind of be that crutch wave clear player that was in 2014 and just try to survive Rookie's lane. So with you, I mean, if they're able to do that and team fight appropriately, I know Def said that it was hard to communicate with you, that he didn't like playing stylistically with him, and he was having issues, and if Def's upset and if Def's not performing, he's the true primary, like the guy who's actually going to carry the game for EDG.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure it's not Clearlove? I mean, Clearlove has a higher kill participation than Def, so...
Then you want your resources, you want him to be happy. Yeah, okay. So with you, I definitely think it's a very close series. With Pawn, it's hard to say just because Cacao has shown like this new ceiling, and Kid and Kitties are playing really well. Zatai is playing really well. I think it'll be closer, but I think EDG will win just like definitively, not like in a stomp, like the games will be close, but I just think that they're going to have a stronger advantage just because their style, I think, works really well. Like, again, their draft phase. IG are really good at... What the fuck? Someone's like dying outside. Their draft phase is really strong, and the thing about EDG that I really like to point out is that their champion pools are massive because they kind of have been given the ability to style throughout the LPL season, just because they've been so far ahead of their opponents, that they just have massive champion pools pretty much across the board. So that takes away a big strength and an element of IG, is that they're not able to target ban Pawn out, especially as easy as it could be to cater you into a matchup that Rookie would really want.
See, it's interesting, the way people frame their arguments. So when you were just framing a best of 5 between your lovely Clearlove and Cacao, player that you rank him over.
It's all about the mid laner.
Yeah, suddenly it all becomes about this 2v... technically, like, jungle and mid, that's the synergy. It's how these two players are going to play against each other. Meanwhile, whenever we're talking about Loveling versus, whenever we're talking about Going versus top laners, suddenly there's no jungle even mentioned. It's just a 1v1 lane, and, it's just, how does this guy do? And let's forget who's on his team. Let's just look at how this carry's doing here.
My primary argument was that Loveling was taken away from Cool and Going, and it affected their performance. That it wasn't the resource of Cool that was important, it was the resource of the jungler. Didn't I just say
when
this, like,
Going didn't have such a good jungler, suddenly he dropped entirely down to earth and became just a Chinese top laner. Meanwhile, all the greatest top laners of all time, they just had junglers like that the whole time. Again, the old gods, they don't need to be propped up. They don't need to use stats to win. They just win in the server, my love.
Are you ready for this? This is the secret to Thorin. If you want Thorin to love any sort of player, you just take one good player and you put him on a team with a bunch of shitters. That's all you have to do. Just that one good player, team full of shitters. That player will make the top 20 list. He will be Thorin's go-to guy.
Okay, how many players were on the top 20 do you think that were like that?
You value teammates and their performance. Like, it's just like this big boom for you. Like, Froskurinn is the amazing AD carry, and I don't know why I went to Froskurinn because I know like it really just inflames you.
Mid laner.
Froskurinn is good. Don't get me wrong, but you put so much power into Froskurinn based on his teammates and not his actual performance and his ability within the games. Like Froskurinn is your, like, blind side. You will go to...
Remember when Froskurinn just won that split last season and his team was utterly dominant and he won in as the MVP of the league and everything was great?
A very different scenario this season.
But last season, you remember when they won that league in dominant fashion? Now, the argument would be there, right? He had a great team, didn't he? He had all those great players. Well, those players don't look very good this season. Where are all those great players?
But that's the thing. You inflate someone's performance because their teammates you deem
No.
unserviceable.
Which of those players in last season's alliance are like all-time great players?
I'm not. I'm just saying, like you. This is like why you really like Name, because Name
stay on point.
with the shitty teammates that he was able to carry, and that's like yes,
so
that's the go-to point.
Here are the two lineups for Froskurinn. There's Alliance last season, and there's the old CLG EU lineup. Okay. Those two lineups, which are the two that Froggen spent the majority of his career with, which are the all-time great players in these two lineups?
Great players or of all time?
Who's going to make your top 20 of all time out of those two lineups? Well, we already know there's only one. That was Froggen, right? Mm-hmm. And then we go to Clearlove, and then he has like 3 or 4 out of your top 20. Froggen has 0. Clearlove has 3 or 4. You don't see any kind of problem there.
I didn't say that. All I said is that you got on me about the achievement thing and like ranking that highly. Yours is the teammate thing. It's right there. Like just because
I have a mix of both,
has good teammates doesn't take away from their abilities.
No, that's why I had Dade like top 3 or something. I think I had him like 3rd or 4th best of all time, and he played with tons of great teammates. I had Mata number 2. No, number 3. I think I had Wejar number 2.
Oh yeah.
I think I had Mata number 3. Now he played with more talent than probably anyone in history. So yeah, keep working on that one. Listen, you gave your opening shot there. You had your first chance to try and fight back with the bully, but you didn't quite knock him down. So he still reigns supreme in the schoolyard at the moment, and you just got to recoup, like come back, do a bit of that Thai bow or whatever it is that you do. Keep that boxercising, keep your fitness levels up, get your cardio up for Froskurinn. Come back better next time. That's all I want you to do.
I just want
be like Clearlove, Froskurinn. You've got some good things going for you right now, but someone else is carrying you. And next year, that's when you're going to be dominant next year. Like you're pretty good right now, but next year you're going to have your Clearlove 2015 where you're going to have 100% conversation, point participation, like you're going to be all over it, okay? You'll be making the analogy next year. So going back to the point here, Kakao versus Clearlove. We're going to see them in a best of 5. How are you enjoying that?
I really want Froggen to become relevant again so I can release my big video on Froggen.
I'll release it anyway.
He's not in the playoffs. Everyone wants Unicorns of Love and Fnatic.
Okay, well we'll see soon then. We'll see soon.
Come on, Froggen, win for
I hope it's really scathing as well, so that the future...
It's not scathing, really.
The repercussions have to be lived up to. So, Kakao versus Clearlove. This is going to be a best of 5. This is the chance for Clearlove to show how great he is and to outplay this great Korean jungler. You must be excited for this matchup.
I guess, yeah. I'm excited for EDG versus Invictus Gaming. I think Invictus Gaming, although LGD, they really surprised me. I thought that Invictus Gaming, Vici Gaming... were like the top over Snake and OMG.
It is known that you are biased in favor of IG. That they are your favorite team.
They are my favorite.
So why don't you just go ahead and say that IG is going to win the whole tournament and go to MSI?
No, okay, they're going to win everything. They're going to win Worlds.
No, you say that jokingly. I think that they're going to win.
Didn't I Lord bet you that EDG was going to go to MSI and beat GE Tigers?
Just because you did that doesn't mean that you can't also say now that IG is going to win.
Okay.
In fact, if anything, if you actually think IG is going to win, you should say that because the Lord bet'd be off anyway. So, what is it?
I gave you the scenarios that if Pawn plays, EDG will win. If you plays, I think IG has a better chance to win.
Okay.
And then as far as the Clearlove versus Kakao matchup, just because of Clearlove's style and how he gets involved with his teammates, and he's more of a teamfight-oriented jungler, that it's not ever truly going to be that 1v1 where Kakao hunts him down and kills him. It's going to be about their teams, the skirmishes.
Okay, for anyone who doesn't know, this is how fucked the Chinese schedule is. You remember how we had like 1 billion weeks of 44 games to be played?
Yeah.
After all of that, we've had all the quarterfinals this week, and you guys are probably thinking, right, well, this episode comes out now, so when are the semis? Like next week or something? No, the semis are tomorrow and Sunday. Like Saturday and Sunday are the semis, and then next week is the final. So we will save the final until next week because we actually have time for that one to discuss it at some point next week. We won't go too into that, and we need to know who it is because next week we have to go all in on this Froskurinn. We have to go super hard on the analysis. We have to go super in depth. This has to be your magnum opus. This has to be your Clearlove 2015 season where you accomplish everything in that one final episode.
Okay. I'll
That's
go
the end.
super hard.